Welcome back to Planet Coaster here in Dusty Creek. We're continuing with the scenery design around the Gears of Fear attraction. This time, I'm planning to build several connected buildings surrounding the ride, unlike what you saw at the end of the last episode where I just placed one random structure across it. And that's exactly what I'm now in the process of designing. As you can see here, I'm working on the basic concept for the attraction, figuring out how the surrounding buildings should look. I'm also adding a roof over the ride itself, so it's at least somewhat protected from the rain. The reason I tore down the facade of the first building is because it lacks proper wall endings, unlike some other wall types and designs. So I'll need to swap it out for a different wall to make it look cleaner and more complete. I'm also tearing down the two lowest wall sections again, simply to give the buildings more structure. I'm taking inspiration from the buildings I've downloaded from the Steam Workshop, aiming to reflect that layered, detailed look they often have. wooden beams along the edge of the building were also inspired by that same workshop style. They help emphasize that these are individual buildings lined up next to each other, while also giving the overall structure more depth and definition. Can you tell I've run out of ideas for which wall types to use? I'm really trying to keep things somewhat authentic, and modern wall styles just don't fit the theme here. But I think with how I've done it now, it actually works pretty well, doesn't it? For the wall pieces that don't have any proper end caps, I just use wooden beams to help me out and craft something custom. That way, it all looks more authentic and cohesive in the end. To make the buildings look good from the inside as well, I'm adding intermediate floors. This not only makes the interiors feel more realistic, but from the outside, it also creates a nice visual break between wall sections, so the transitions don't appear quite so abrupt. Now that the building's basic concept is finished, I'm repositioning it a bit, making sure it fits better in the space it's placed in, and that it looks more balanced and aesthetically pleasing from different angles. Finally, I'll be creating paths and the queue line to connect the building to the rest of the park, ensuring it blends seamlessly into the overall layout.